back to the channel. We are finally going to be getting back to our book reviews. So this week we are going to be reviewing A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. So this is actually a sequel to An Ember in the Ashes. It's part of the same series. So if you guys missed my review for that book, I will put a link to it as always up in the corner so you guys can go rewatch that video and sort of catch up on the series before you guys watch this video. Just like when I did my review for An Ember in the Ashes, I'm going to give a slight content warning. This book's very much for older teen audience, so I wouldn't recommend this to younger kids, obviously. But if you guys got like an older teenager who's into a more dystopian type of book and, you know, can handle a bit more mature book, I feel like this is a really good option. So, as always, format for the book review. Summary of the story, pros, cons, and then my final thought and ranking of the book. So, with all that out of the way, let's get started. Okay, so this book takes place immediately after the first book. Elias and Laia have escaped Blackcliff and are using the cover of the Scholar riots to get out of the city. Once the two of them make it out of Blackcliff, they are going to head to Cough Prison to rescue Laia's brother Darin, who's been captured there. But they're being pursued by Helene, who has now officially become the blood strike to Marcus, who is now the Emperor from the end of the first book. Helene is leading the Blackguard on a crazy chase across the countryside to find Elias and Laia before they can break Darin out of prison. As the two groups are chasing each other, they start to reveal secrets about the past and about allies. Just like the first book, first thing I'm going to talk about for the pros section is going to be Elias. Just like the first book, Elias continues to be my personal favorite character in this entire series. I think Tahir did a very good job at continuing what I enjoyed from Elias's story from the first book, which was sort of his moral conflict as to should I continue to train as a mask and possibly become emperor, or should I abandon everything that I've known in my entire life and become a much better person. Elias does struggle with that conflict of having killed his friends towards the end of book 1. He's still grappling with that guilt, and I very much did still enjoy that part of his character. Another thing that Sabaa Tahir does very well with his character is intro this ticking clock that Elias has to deal with. I'm not going to say specifically why he's got this ticking clock because it's very important for his overall story, but the fact that he has to deal with this ticking clock is overshadowing his entire story. And again, I'm not going to say anything in case you guys do want to read this book, but again, Tahir does a very great job at having us connect with Elias's just fear and anxiety at having this ticking clock that he's under. Like I said, again, Elias continues to be my favorite character for this book in particular, and in the first 2 books, I really have enjoyed Elias's character. I think Tahir continues to do a very good job with his character, and I really hope his character continues to be just as good. Again, please, no spoilers. I want to read this series for myself and see if he continues to be a really good character, so if you guys have read the series, please do not say anything. Okay guys, so second thing I'm going to be talking about for the pros section is the new character that Sabaa Tahir ends up focusing on in this book, which is Helene. Helene isn't entirely new to the series. She got introduced during Elias's part of the story in the first book, but this is the book where she really becomes a main character in the entire series. And I think Sabaa Tahir did an excellent job at introing a very interesting new character that I really did enjoy. Helene's whole thing in her section of the story is that now that she's the blood strike, she has to follow Marcus's orders, but Marcus is a complete psychopath. Think of Joaquin Phoenix's character from Gladiator. He's literally that. She has to obey his orders, but again, he's a complete psychopath, and he has her family hostage in order to ensure her cooperation in hunting down Elias and Laia. Even as cliche as Helene's part of the story seems, while you're reading it, it's still very good. Sabaa Tahir again does a really good job at making us feel for Helene as she's going through all this, because again, Marcus is holding her family basically hostage, so she does not have a whole lot of choice in the matter. And Sabaa Tahir does a very good job at making Helene feel very sympathetic while all this is going on, more or less against her will, because she never wanted to become the Bloodstrike and serve Marcus. She always wanted Elias to become emperor and to serve under him. Marcus was the last person she ever wanted to become emperor. So Saboteur does a very good job at making us sympathize with what's going on with her. The other thing that Helene's part of the story gives us a glimpse into is kind of the political nature of the Martial Empire, because it very much is a hierarchical class. You got like the highborn guys up at the top, a middle mercantile class, and then you got the lower class regular people. And Helene's part of the story sort of touches on that, and I really like that, but I kind of wish Saboteur had focused a bit more on establishing how the political system in the Martial Empire works. To me, at least, that sort of stuff's very interesting and can be important to the story. Saboteur touches on it a little bit. I just wish we had gotten more of an explanation on how the Empire works in general. So, third thing I'm going to be talking about for the prose section is the big reveal towards the end of this book that concerns the Nightbringer. Now, this next section is going to contain some spoilers, so if you guys plan on reading this book, I'll put a time code over on the side somewhere where you can jump to and you will not get spoiled as far as the big reveal at the end of this book. The big reveal at the end of this book is that the guy that Laia has been traveling with, Keenan, is actually the Nightbringer, and that he's been manipulating Laia to get her armlet the entire book. That was part of his plan. And this reveal at the end of the book honestly was completely insane. Even I didn't even see that coming, and when I got to that part of the book, I'm like, holy cow, I really did not see that coming. And I really do admire Saboteur for being able to do such a really good reveal and make it done so well, because Keenan had been in the story more or less since the beginning, and the Nightbringer hadn't. The Nightbringer had only been brought up a couple of times, even within this book, but the reveal that Keenan was the Nightbringer was just insane to me. I didn't even consider that as a possibility, and when I finally got to that part of the book again, I was completely shocked, and I really did love that reveal. First thing I'm going to talk about for the con section, unfortunately, is Laia. So, again with the first book, I couldn't connect too much to Laia as a character. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Saboteur's writing of Laia as a character, but I cannot get interested in her part of the story. I don't know. I very much do like Helene and Elias's parts of the story much better than I like Laia's. I think it's because Laia doesn't really have any sort of moral gray area to explore like the other two. She's more or less a very straightforward character, which is fine. I don't mind that in a book character, but when you put a straightforward character like Laia up against two more morally gray characters like Elias and Helene, I very much prefer Elias and Helene than Laia, the very straightforward character. Again, I can't connect with her as well as I can connect with Helene and Elias and their parts of the story. It's not to say that Laia is a bad character. She's a very well-written character. I personally just can't connect with her as a character. I very much more prefer the other two over her. It's my personal preference as far as character types. I like a more morally gray character. And if you guys like Laia, I'm not going to really stop you from liking her. I personally just don't like her as a character. I just feel like there's not enough there for me to get invested in. So, second thing I'm going to talk about in this book are a couple of missed opportunities for character development. The one part of the book I really want to focus on as far as a very big missed opportunity is when Elias is in the waiting place and he has to confront Tristis, his friend from the first book. While Elias is in the waiting place, he has to confront Tristis and try and help him move on to the afterlife, but Tristis is just so angry that he doesn't want to move on at all. He's holding such a big grudge against Elias that it's preventing him from moving on to the next step. And this, I think, was a very big opportunity for Saboteur to do some really big character development for Elias, because I really think there should have been a conversation between Elias and Tristis about what happened. Like, there was a very big opportunity here to deepen Elias's regret. We've seen a lot of his regret through the story, but I think this was a very big opportunity that was missed to dig very deep into Elias's character and just to deepen his character more and focus on contrasting who he was in Blackcliff to who he's become after meeting Laia. I know it's a small thing to sort of nitpick, but I do honestly think if Sabatahir had extended that scene a little bit and had a very, very deep conversation after, say, Elias failed a couple of times to help Tristis, and then last time they have a very deep conversation, then we deepen Elias's character quite a bit. Another thing that Elias learns is that the Nightbringer has a plan to unite the pieces of the weapon that was used to trap the Jinn inside the waiting place. And there was a lot of lore and a lot of backstory as far as just the Nightbringer and the conflict between the Jinn and the scholars in general, but it was kind of surface level stuff. We didn't get a big explanation on what happened. We meet a character in this book called Soulcatcher who is there and is a Jinn who is there when that conflict took place, and I really think it would have been a good opportunity to have a sort of deeper conversation as far as why the conflict went down and what happened, why it happened, and all that stuff. We have a character, Soulcatcher, who knows everything and was there and doesn't give a whole lot of answers. So I really think this was a very big missed opportunity to expand the lore of the series, and I'm sure Sabatahir in later books, but I really wish we had gotten an explanation as far as the conflict between the Jinn and the scholars with Soulcatcher when Elias was in the waiting place. So, third thing I'm going to talk about for the con section is the pacing problems that this book has sometimes. Now, honestly, again, this comes down to when Elias takes his trip into the waiting place. I think those sections of the book are personally my favorite. I really like them, but I think they're really short. I think Sabatahir should have taken a couple of even Helene's chapters or Laia's chapters and gave them to Elias and just given us more explanation and more time in the waiting place to get that really big explanation. The stuff in the waiting place I think is so interesting, but it moves way too fast for me. I think the book in those places should have slowed down a little bit and taken advantage that we have such a really cool place and a really cool chance to do some character development. As the book is written, it is still very good. I just think it should have slowed down in those parts and just given us a chance to really understand what this place is and who the Soulcatcher is. It would have been a very good use of that part of the book. So overall, I really do enjoy this book as a sequel to An Ember in the Ashes. Ember in the Ashes I really did enjoy, but I think honestly this book just slightly edges it out just a bit because I love Helene and her new perspective in the book. Elias continues to be awesome. The Nightbringer reveal was insane. And those three things really pushed this book over the edge and just edge out the first book. I personally think that this book is slightly better than the first one, and I really do enjoy it. Aside from not being able to really connect with Laia, but that was kind of a problem in the first book. Other than that, and the fact that there were some pacing problems and some missed opportunities, I really did enjoy this book. Aside from those couple of problems, and even those problems aren't big, they're just things that I noticed. But other than those couple of things, I really did genuinely enjoy this book and feel like it's kind of better in a couple of ways than the first book. So I'm going to give A Torch Against the Night an 8 out of 10. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please do not forget, like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss a video. If you guys want to chat with me on social media, my Instagram is Riley Murray Book Reviews, my Twitter is Riley T. Murray, and I also just started up a Facebook, which is also Riley Murray Book Reviews. As always, I will leave links to all those accounts down in the description so you guys can go and follow them. If you guys have books you want me to do reviews on in the future, please do not be afraid to leave those down in the comments or leave them as comments on my social media pages. Either place is fine. If you guys have read this book before and want to discuss it, just leave your reviews and general thoughts in the comments. I would love to discuss the book with anyone who's read it before. Okay guys, I will see you next week. Till then, have a great week, and don't forget, keep on reading.